What is up, YouTube? This is your girl, Killer Rose. The reason why I'm whispering right now is because my parents aren't in the other side of the room, and you might hear some TV noises or whatever. If this gets taken down or there's restrictions on this, then obviously I'm gonna edit this. But I'm gonna say this, and it's a story that you guys need to hear, and it's about a guy who goes by Dr. Kris Johnson. He was a trauma surgeon, and yes, I do have my handy dandy notebook just to give out information so I don't have to ramble about this and then get off track, okay? So, he's either a trauma surgeon or a general surgeon. Johnson, he saves lives. Um, So Johnson didn't operate anyone after this incident, which took in June 30th, 2022. By 11 p.m., his life turned upside down because of him doing something that was, it seemed harmless, but at the same time, it wasn't appropriate as he did what he did, but no prior convictions. He was, I mean, obviously this was the first time of an offense, but it's so crazy. So I guess a repeat criminal at 11 p.m. This guy, he was snooping around the neighborhood, and at the time of the night, this guy spooked a couple. And so Kris Johnson, I guess his wife, went up to him and say that there was something going on outside, and he just, there's a random dude in the front door or whatever, right? And so I guess this criminal in particular is tied to a West Side City Crips. Never heard of that gang. Never heard it in that gang. And yes, it's in Phoenix, Arizona, okay, when this occurred. And you could tell right away because it's basically located by the State Farm Stadium, which is literally the Arizona Cardinals. They actually took an actual video of that scenery, and yes, I'll link it down. But so yeah, this guy, he was in a gang, um, 30 plus convictions, and there's one info in particular that I do want to get in the end of it, but it basically he shot up in the air to give a warning shot, and before all that he saw lights. He thought there was multiple people. As you would know, some people who are stealing usually have one or up to six or more people to get like to basically one person being the lookout, the multiple people being in the house to steal stuff, and in case if there was like uh for some odd reason, if there was a person who has a gun or who has something to defend themselves. I mean, you would want multiple people at one place to overpower them. So I'm just gonna make this quick, okay? So I guess this happened, and when he shot up in the air, the police reacted right away because obviously those cars, you know, you would think that it was so odd that they had lights on, but no red and blue lights, just white lights that looks exactly like Aikiko. Sorry about this, guys. Hold on. Hold on. My bad, y'all. Obviously, this door is not good, but I'm just gonna go over here real quick and just set it up. But So and then I guess it was a huge ordeal. For some reason, when he shot up in the air, the police reacted right away, and they told him to drop the gun, to drop the weapon, and they shot multiple times. But I was like he basically ran away from the cops, of course, with the gun on hand. And it seems like they said that, well, he stopped for a few minutes to see if it can, um, to shoot the officers again. Hold on, guys. We're gonna do this again. This is my dog, Hiko, but it's sold to you as real. And there's a lot of inaccuracies. So, I'm sorry about that, y'all. I have dogs and cats too, but this is not it. All right. So I'm gonna get into it. Just be patient. So as soon as he went to the house, right away, his wife was already on the phone with the cops. There was like a huge miscommunication. There was no lights. It looks like there was a bunch of thugs in the streets. So it was so sketchy. There was no red and blue lights to indicate that there was police outside already. And it looks in the lights that they had looked like they were literally from a football field in high school basically. You can just check it out yourselves if you have a son or a daughter who are either in cheerleading or in in football. If you look at those bright lights, they're literally huge giant lights that light up the whole field. And it's insane how these people, or these officers in particular, didn't have the red and blue lights. So it was so crazy. And then they had SWAT involved. I mean, that's a whole waste of resource in my opinion, especially for these people. I mean, a good like sweep and search would have been nice, or would have been appropriate for officers. It wasn't like, you know what I mean? I don't understand how could, you know, all they had to do is get the radio, tell them to get out the house with their hands up, and that was it. But to get a SWAT involved, it was insane. But that's beyond me. But I'm just saying that this is crazy in a sense. And so because of all this that happened, Johnson was charged with 5 felonies. So they're trying to get him to jail for 20 years. But with the plea would be like 5 to 10 years in jail, in prison. And it's so weird. I feel like that is a huge mistake. Obviously, this guy was not intending to kill anyone. And for him to be a surgeon with no prior convictions, I mean, you gotta be kidding me. I mean, there's more people outside that are more dangerous than this guy. And and then they never gave the indication that the police were there already on scene. Stay in the house, tell your husband to get back inside, or whatever, etc., right? And everyone would have been fine if the operator would have, said, hey, police are already on scene, they got one suspect in particular. My first question out of all of this, why didn't the police ask if there was cameras inside of the residence, to see if they matched the description of the person that they feel like they're snooping and trying to see if they can get inside the house, because he was trying to get inside. As you can see in the video, he was trying to lift up the plants or the mat and see what, if there was any keys under the floor. Like, there's certain hiding spots that you would like to have a extra key in, right? But sometimes that's not the best case for you to have, especially especially if there's like people out to steal. It sucks, but it happens. Um, to have a spare key, I don't know. I feel like it has, for me, it would definitely be like in a car, in a vehicle, but to have it underneath a mat or like a flower pot, it's definitely a risk that you will have to take eventually. But this guy was obviously trying to find something to let himself in, and eventually trespassing. Okay, and so I mean, so the Phoenix found officers' actions within policy, but I'm like, no. Obviously, didn't have the red and blue lights. Didn't the operator did not say that the police were there on scene already, and then usually the police would announce themselves and say, Phoenix police, make yourself known, put your hands up, or something like that, and say, you know, and sometimes it, they will give you a chance to comply with the officers. They don't just rush in gun blazing. And in this case, this officer was trigger happy. Like, why the multiple shots? This guy was running away. Yes, you can't see at night. That's why you have to be extra vigilant. And am I an officer anyway? No, but you could back me up if it's true what I say. Um, so I mean, it's so crazy. So this criminal was obviously tied to a gang called West Side City Crips, and because of this incident that happened, the same year this guy was committed criminal trespassing and burglary, and this happened in the same year in 2022. Um, and it's crazy. Rachel Mitchell, I can't really pronounce or spell her name, but she basically reviewed the case but won't budge. She thinks, well, because this guy shot an officer, of course he would need to go to jail for 20 years, or if he takes the plea deal, he's still gonna go to jail, which I think it's the worst thing that you can do. Obviously, she's an attorney. However, I basically said, like, I'm trying to read this here, guys, because I said, how about making real arrest to the people who are indeed criminals, who have been charged and been booked by human trafficking and prostitution? Why not get those guys who deserve to be locked up, and not this guy who thought there was a criminal, a thief that trying to get into his home and eventually, or maybe even hurt his own family? And it's so weird to really go hard at this guy. For me, I just don't think it's right. I really don't. And I guess there was experts that reviewed this case. Even the judge says that this is wrong, that this person doesn't deserve this time, this amount of time. Maybe a house arrest or maybe a class, I think. Say, okay, you know what? We're gonna cut you some slack. You're gonna be on house arrest, and you're just gonna take a class, because obviously that's not what you do. You don't go outside and see if there's a thief roaming in your backyard or front yard and, have a warning shot. You stay inside your residence, you stay inside your home, and you make sure that person, whoever is a thief, never gets inside your house. And make sure you know your laws and you know your rights as a person, because they will pin everything against you. And for me, I would rather be safe than sorry, knowing the laws and knowing that a lawyer can defend you because you used your every ability to protect your home. So yeah, that's all I wanted to say, guys. I wanted to say this story, and it's insane how this guy is getting basically just screwed over by a justice that we need to have and to protect these types of people. I feel like this guy does not deserve what he needs to get on with his life. And yes, it has affected him tremendously. This guy did not operate anyone, you know, and during this time of incident, which is 2022, guys, it's 2026 now, so it's been a couple of years, and it's so sad to see guys and women like these who actually contribute to a society that we need. We need surgeons and we need doctors. We need people who actually save lives. So if you guys like this video, please like and comment and subscribe. I'll be here. I'm just done. I'm done waiting. I'm done trying to see if it's the right moment to post. So I'm gonna do whatever I can and whatever I can do. All right. See you guys probably soon. I'll probably get some other ideas and probably schedule in a different time. But you'll definitely see me. All right. I'll see you guys later. Peace.